Okay, I am just getting a notification from my streaming service that we may have some bandwidth issues, so I apologize in advance if you get some, or if there's some pausing. The video's working, but my mouth's not moving, that sort of a thing. But we're looking at a live view of our sun right now, and it is a very active sun, by the way. I've been around it already this morning looking for a good spot to stop and image. I want to do a time lapse where I can feature some activity, hopefully some activity. I'm going to get my mic over here. Some activity with these sunspots, but even more interesting right now I find is the possibilities that there is a solar flare cooking on the rim of the sun, and I do want to see what that's all about. So I'm going to raise the exposure up and show you that. There it is. This is a pretty monstrous solar flare, and I'm hoping that I can pull that out along with the detail on the sun in post-processing. That's the plan. But there are other areas of the sun that are equally image worthy, and so let's kind of move around the sun, and let's see, we're going up. Let's move the sun up, and we'll have another. These are two giant spots, by the way, sunspots. They're huge. And then this is also has my attention, because this is a very active filament that's doing all kinds of things. Now that's a dust spot that I'll have to remove in post, and then we have these sunspots here. So these are also huge, just huge sunspots. So I'm liking those. I'm not sure what's going on the rim, if there's any flaring going on. Nothing like the prior frame. So this is probably a section of the sun I'll end up ruling out. Let's continue to move around, and I'll show you another spot that I'm interested in. Let's see if there's anything on the bottom here. I haven't looked here yet on the bottom part of the sun. There's some, but again, I wouldn't stop here if I was comparing this to the first frame that I looked at, or the first area of the sun when we first started. So, but where I'm taking you now is a pretty impressive part of the sun. I think this will show it. Let's bring exposure up. Yeah. So now we have some pretty wicked rim activity going on here from a good large portion. There has to be some activity that over a 2+ hour time lapse would show some movement of the flare. I would hope, I would think, but this is the other possibility. So I'm kind of excited about having all of this, and the possibility of all this rim activity, as well as what could be going on with these spots, because usually you'll see some plasma moving around the core of the sunspot in a time lapse, and that's pretty cool. So let's continue to move around and see what's going on up here. This sunspot right here is just a monster. It's as big as I've ever seen since I started doing this in, I think, 2017, when I got my Quark Chromosphere. I don't think I've ever seen one any bigger than this, ever. And it's just, this is so large that you could probably put 5, 6, 7, 10 Earth-size planets inside this area. It is just huge. These are typical sunspots. These outliers, these are what we're accustomed to seeing. This is just, it's a mega sunspot. Now, I haven't looked at the rim here. See if we got any. Well, this is pretty remarkable too. So I had some decisions to make, and I'm not done because I want to look at another solar telescope. I know I have a thread activity. I get it all the time. Okay. All right, let's venture around. Come on out, let's get going. There's nothing on the sun's surface that appeals to me here, and I don't know if there's anything on the, well, we got a couple flares here. It's just the active part of the sun is just very active. It's a real tease if you enjoy doing solar imaging, because it's a decision time on what you want to image, if not everything, and that's a possibility. Not doing a time lapse and just venture around and get a lot of images of every square inch of the sun and the sun's surface. But I'm led back here. There's just something about this that I like, probably as much as anything I've seen. And let's go back and look at, yeah, this is it, folks. This is where I'm going to end up doing my time lapse, unless I decide to use another telescope. And let's go look at that. I'm going to switch cameras and switch telescopes. I have currently 2 telescopes connected. I have a Quark Chromosphere attached to an Astrotech 65 EDQ refractor, and that's what we're looking at now. And then I have an ASI 1600 monochrome camera that's connected to a Solar Scout. It's a 60 millimeter. Now both the Quark Chromosphere and the Solar Scout have a built-in multiplier, like a Barlow, that's about, well, it's over 4 times 4x. So it's the reason why we're seeing such a telephoto view of the sun. And so when we switch to this 1600 camera, hopefully we'll have the sun in view. Let's bring the gain up to, oh, there's good, and let's move. We got to work on exposure. Let's see, we got to go east and north and east some more, and let's bring the exposure down. It's real delicate. Alright, so you got, and look at all these sunspots, not sunspots, dust spots. This is just an accumulation of dust that's either on the IR UV cut filter, it's on the optic, or it's on my lens. The solar optic, the Scout, or the Quark, it's attached to it, or it's on the sensor. But nonetheless, these are the sunspots, and this is the area right over here that's really very active, in this area up here where these 2 sunspots are. So I'm looking at imaging right here and or right here, and then this is that monster. Man, it's a huge sunspot. So I could do a time lapse with this and have everything, but it's you really don't see a lot of plasma movement in a time lapse that's that the view is this far away, nor do you see a lot of movement in a time lapse with the activity. You'll see some, but nothing like when you're with the other telescopes. So and the Quark Chromosphere. So this is a great view, and I'm going to go ahead and knock off an image right now. I'm going to just call this Solar Scout. No, just Scout. And I'm going to go ahead and take 500 frames. I'll take there, it's already set. Just a quick 500 frames. I needed to tell it where I was going to save it to. I'm going to go ahead up to, well, let it finish. I could stop capture, but let it go ahead and save it. I always get ahead of myself. I know I'm live on Facebook and YouTube, and if any questions are coming up, I don't even have comments pulled up, so I'll do that in a minute. But let me knock off some frames of the sun. And again, you're looking at a live view of the sun this morning from Spartanburg, South Carolina. Let me go to Files, Sharp Cap Settings, File Names, and we want to save to the Extreme SSD drive and to 52523 folder that I created. Always make sure you click Apply, or those effects won't take place. Let me check my histogram, and okay, that's pretty hot. So let me back off the exposure. Let's make this 8.2. That works. All right, so let's go ahead and knock off that quick capture now again. I'm going to close out the histogram. We don't need it. And down here we're capturing at 20 frames per second. The reason is the high resolution of the 1600 camera, the large file size, and I've even dropped the capture area down to 2640 by 2640 to make it go faster. Otherwise it would be 2 and 3 frames per second. So I've got that. I'm going to take another one while I have this hooked up, and I'll have a couple of them just in case I wasn't paying attention. Birds or something were flying through my field of view. We live fairly close to Greenville Spartanburg Airport, and I'll get a jet come through about every 10 imaging sessions. I don't have my headset on either, so I have no idea if there's even sound. The things you don't do if you YouTube video and Facebook is you don't go online first without having your mic in place, your headset on, or some means of monitoring whether the sound is working, because there's a lot of parts here that you don't see that I'm pushing buttons to control. And I guess I better do it if I can find them. Okay. And while that's finishing up, yeah, I hear sound. So let me bring up and we want comments. Okay. All right. So I'm good there. All right, now we're going to move back to our 174 and let's how we want to do this. Let's drop the gain down to about 110. Let's make it 120. That's good. And let's go up to about 12 milliseconds. Let's check the histogram. Ooh, way too hot. So let's bring exposure down. I like it about there. There, that's where I want it. Okay. All right, we can dismiss that, and let's see. We want to move west and set this up. Let's come down a little. Let's move east. Okay, now let's check the solar flare, make sure it's still there. Oh yeah. So this is what we're going to be imaging. This is it. I'm going to go down to 110 and we check that histogram again. Looks fine. I'm going to knock off one picture and see how it's going to look. So I'm going to take 500 and I want to change this now to Quark test. And we're going to process this one. So let's just do 200 frames. All right, it's done. Let's bring up auto stackered. And let's do one other thing. Let's go ahead and take a flat. I should have done that. So let's move east. Stop about right there, and let's go down to focus, and let's defocus in by 1,000 steps. And then we're going to change the name of this to flat Quark flat, because we'll be taking flats also, and I want 500 frames for the flat frame. Okay, we can go ahead and take the focuser back out 1,000 frames and we should be where we were. All right, and so we are. I'm gonna put this back in. Let's stop about right there. And this is probably where I'm going to end up. Let's also, while we're here, double check exposure and run this up to make sure we still have, yep, it's where I want it. Here's our rim flare. Okay, now we got that. Let's go back to auto stackered and let's open our flat frame. The flat frame is going to be used to remove the, there's our flat to remove the dust. So this is the flat area that we just took, and I'm going to create a master flat, and let's just put that in the root. We're going to call this Quark Q for Quark flat, because I'll be taking some scout flats. And so we have that. Now let's load our image we just took, and 525. Here's the test image. So let's open it up. Now, what we want to do, excuse me, is we want to load our flat frame. So we're going to go to image calibration, load the master flat, and there it is. And watch this dust disappear if we did this right. Okay, so we lost the dust and the vignetting, and that's good. I'm going to move this box over and kind of zoom in just a little. And I want to run, I may be too bright. I may have to bring the exposure down. But I'm going to scrub through this video for, yeah, that's pretty detailed. Okay, I want to analyze. Clouds just went over, guys. I may not be making a time lapse after all. We're supposed to have clear skies today, but you know, maybe it's just a outlier cloud because I see the sun coming back. Alright, we've analyzed it. Didn't expect too much with this view, but let's place a grid, a reference grid, and let's stack 50% of the 200. And so we're going to process this. What I'm doing, I took a video that had 200 separate frames, which is what a video is. It's a lot of frames taken at 20 frames per second, and I'm stacking those frames into one image. It will be a TIFF file, and it's about done. So this program called AutoStacker has just converted a video file into an image file. So I'm going to get rid of it, and then I'm going to open up a program. I hope it's on here. Yeah, IMPPG. I usually don't do any processing on the laptop that's taking images. So let's load this stacked image, and this is the test, and it's in this folder called 50. So there's our image, and so I want to process the entire thing all at once, not just a section. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up curves, and I'm going to put an anchor point back there, and I'm going to drag this up. I've got to bring out this info here, so it looks better. Okay, let's bring deconvolution up to 2.4. which is sort of my sweet spot. And let's raise sharpening by bringing sigma up to 1.5 and about the same for, okay, this will be my starting point. So I do have it isn't great for a time lapse. Let me get rid of curves here. Let me bring deconvolution up a little more. See how much I can get by with. And the amount of unsharp mask. You can overdo it in a hurry. Okay, well, I'm going to drop the exposure and work on focus because this isn't really very impressive, and if I set up to do 2.5 hours of these, it's not going to make a decent time lapse. Also, I'm going to go out and check the skies. In fact, what I can do is bring up my outside camera and I won't have to go out, and let's do that now. Just trying to connect. I got the umbrella over my telescopes. These are 2 telescope setups I have for deep sky, and then over here is the telescope I have for the Solar Scout, and that's my wife. Oh, look at the wind. And my wife's outside talking to her neighbors. So didn't expect that, did we? All right, let's hang on a minute. Let me move my camera. I like these remote control surveillance cameras. Well, this is where the sun is, and I can't really tell, but I really don't think I'm going to be able to take a time lapse because this has just started. When I came upstairs and hooked up, there weren't any clouds. So let me do one other thing. Let me go to I was going to check the weather, but okay, I'll shut that camera off. And I'm going to try to take a few more just images, and I'll probably end up calling it a day. So let me get rid of this, and let's go back out to our camera. Wrong one. And we want to go to, we got disconnected. And we didn't get disconnected, I just shut it down. Alright, I'm going to drop the exposure down some because I was overexposed. I know on camera it looks pretty dim, but you're going to have to trust me on this. This is going to take a better picture. Also, I want to zoom in some, say 125% onto this sunspot, and I want to go down to my focus, and I want to bring it, let's try going in. I'm racking the focuser in 5 steps at a time. I don't think I'm improving anything. Let's go out. And this was the starting point. Let's go out another 5 steps. No. I think I focused before I signed on, so I think we're probably as good as we're going to get given the scene conditions. Okay, let's go back to let me knock off another. Before I do that though, let's move west a little and north. Let's go back east some. About there. And let's take this time 1,000 frames. And we're taking frames at around 85 frames per second. Let's take another, let's change the name, and this will be Quark. It's just and let's take another 1,000 frames. Take another 1,000 frames. Then let's move on to another part of the sun and take some more. So let's go down. I definitely want to go over and get that other sunspot. And let's stop here. And let me and let's come on a little more, get that sunspot in. And let's knock off 1,000 here. There is a little rim activity, not much. Let's take off another, knock off another 1,000. And let's we double check the rim. No, there wasn't anything there. Okay. All right, let's go. And let's check the, okay, we want to move, because we want to get this activity right here. Let's go ahead and take this and process it, and let's drop this down to 11.7. And let's check our histogram. Too hot. Check our histogram. I can already tell you, just right. Okay, let's take 1,000 here. Another 1,000. another 1,000. And let's start processing this one. Let's bring up auto stacker and let's open let's take this one here, and that's the last one we took. Let's go ahead and put the sample box there. Let's load our flat frame and load our master flat. There it is, and got rid of the crap. Look through this and see if that looks pretty good. All right, let's analyze it. And while we're analyzing this, let's go back out and let's move up and see the big sunspot. Man, it's a monster. There it is. Wow, guys, this is a beast. They don't get any bigger than that. Let's check the surface of the rim. Got a little activity, not much. Let's go down to 11.7 and let's knock off 1,000 here. Let's knock off another 1,000. Thank you, clouds, for staying away while I do these. And another 1,000. And let's go back to auto stacker, and it's about to finish this. All right, let's apply a grid, and then let's save about, say 30% or 300 frames and make an image. So it's going to stack that, and while that's happening, let's change telescopes and let's load the Scout with the 1600, and let's move well, let's drop our gain down and our exposure down, and we need to go west and north. Yeah, a little east and a little south. I'm just trying to center it, and then we can raise our gain up a little. And these are some really, really active areas. And then we have the big flare here, and those two sunspots that we first imaged. Huge filament. And then this is the mega sunspot that we're processing. What are we processing? We're processing this image right here where we had these sunspots and that flaring on the rim. That's what we're working on with auto stacker. It won't be done. It's working, but it isn't ready yet. We'll come back in a minute or two and finish processing it. Then we'll process the solar scout image that I took. In fact, let's go back to scout. Change the name again. Call that scout 2, and let's take 500 frames of scout 2. Actually, I needed to move that over some. And when it's finished, let's see where we are with auto-stackered. We're done with auto-stackered, but let me finish this and let me move it west a little bit. And north a tad. And east a little bit. Okay, there. Alright, let's take another 500 and then let's go over to IMPPG and let's load. Let's see, we want to go to the right folder. And let's, alright, don't know what happened up here. The exposure's still too bright. That's crazy. Never expected that. Alright, let's process it all. And let's bring the deconvolution up to 2.4. And let's bring our sigma to about 1.7, 1.5 here. And then let's run curves. See if we can bring out, there we go. Okay, that's going to show better. Wow. No point in saving this. I'm going to come back and redo all of these. Just wanted to see what I got. Let's bring up auto-stackered and let's open get the right drive. And we went to Scout 2. Let's bring up one of those images. And let's analyze it. Let's bring our sample box up here to the sunspot, and let's analyze it. And while we're doing that, let's go back out to the live view of the sun, and that is what you're looking at. Nothing like a little mood music. Let's see how auto stacker's doing. Okay, it's finished. Let's place a grid. These boxes are 104 pixels by 104 pixels. That's the 104. So let's go ahead and stack the stack 30%. We only took 500 frames, so that'll be a gracious plenty. Sorry for the static. Still working. These are some hot areas. All of our weather on Earth, every bit of our weather is due to what happens on our star. Everything. Our magnetic field, absolutely everything. Let's take another image. This is moving right before our eyes right here. Keep an eye on this area right here. This is really acting up. This is a flare that's shooting in our direction, like the ones you see on the rim, which is on the side of the sun. From our perspective, this is aimed in our direction. Okay, let's process one of those images. So we're going to close out of Auto Stacker and bring up IMPPG, and let's load and okay. We're going to want to select and process all. And move our histogram around. Okay, we're going to bring deconvolution up to around 4 and really bump up our sharpening. So this is a, the image we're looking at right now shows a little flaring starting to show up here. Compare that to a live image. And look at this now. Uh-oh, we have clouds. Well, this might be a good time to sign off, but this is really going ape. I wish I could do a time lapse of it. The clouds win, folks. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day, and catch you next time I have clear skies. Whether it's the sun or deep space, I like to go live when I image.